I can confirm that I have received the Cecilia Dapa case and I am probing it. Yoko Boss speaks exclusively to 3FM.
I have that and we are now reviewing to at the appropriate time we'll speak about it.
We'll bring you that loaded interview. Also, Ghana maintains 43rd position on Corruption Perception Index since 2020. Plus, renewed curfew in Boko as the Upper East Regional Security Council announces a new set of security measures. Once again, thank you very much for joining us. Remember, the news is also streaming live on 3fm.com. Now, I can confirm that I have received the Cecilia Dapa case and currently probing it. That is the confirmation coming from the Executive Director of the Economic and Organized Crime Office, YOCO, COP Mamiya Tiwa Adedankwa. The confirmation comes days after the Special Prosecutor, Kisia Jabing, at a press conference told the public that his investigations concluded that the stashing of huge sums of foreign currency in the homes of former Sanitation Minister Cecilia Dapa amounted to money laundering. The SP did not say whether or not his office found any corruption-related issues with the millions of cash in Cecilia Dapa's homes, but said the YOCO was the best institution to handle the case now. Listen to what Madam Adedankwa told 3 News. Had been handed over to your office. Can you confirm receipt of the case?
Yes, I confirm that.
Okay.
So that is all.
But do you have any preliminary comment on it?
I have that and we are now reviewing to at the appropriate time we'll speak about it.
Before that though, before the OSP took the case up, would you say that it was something that had come to your attention?
I don't know what is on the docket, so I'm not well briefed on that, so I don't want to make any comment on it until we review and then we'll look at it. Maybe at the appropriate time we'll speak to you.
That's excellent. But in the midst of that, you also know that the Fourth Estate, Manasseh, SML and all of that, do you have any information on that?
No, I don't.
Okay, but is this something that you were interested in taking it up before Manasseh came up with it?
You see, I don't talk about things that I'm not well briefed. If you want to talk about any other things, fine, but not on that. Because we've just, even before, the most important thing is that he has handed over, but I don't have any more thing to add.
I mean, you have a very important role as the Executive Director of YOCO. Listening to the figures on corruption and all of that, aren't you concerned as an institution that is supposed to be investigating crime and all these issues?
Every Ghanaian is concerned. You are concerned. I am also concerned. Everybody should be concerned. And what do we have to do? We must all put our hands together and we must fight whatever is fighting us. That is what I can say. But the point is that, like OSP said, if we really need to fight it, then everybody must fight it. I have somebody who asked me for something, some money, some support to pay the school fees or something. Then after that, the moment I said I will help, she called me back to say I shouldn't put it on her Momo because he's owing MTN. Can you imagine? And I did. So these are some of the things, small things that we think they don't matter. But they do. It starts from small things and it becomes big. So everybody to have a change of attitude, mindset, that this is where we are. And this is where we want to go. And we must all play a role in the fight against corruption. One person cannot do it, and it's not about leadership. It's about everybody playing a role. Whatever is expected of you, you do it. Whatever is expected of me, I do it. Whatever is expected of institution, we do that. But at the end of the day, one thing that we should always remember is that when you are prosecuting corruption, it's not about what you think. It is about the evidence that you have. If you don't have evidence, you don't have a case. And that is what the public must understand. So people make wild allegations, and when it comes to providing evidence, then they chicken out.
How do you deal with the criticism that you should be more proactive, like even the SML case when Manasseh came out with it? Like YOCO should have been the first to investigate it.
We take them in good faith, and we always learn. We take them in good faith. When somebody says you should have done this, you look at what the person is telling you, and if you think that is what you should have done, you learn from it, and next time you adjust your strategies, and then you move on and you become a better person.
Thank you so much. And you heard the Iyoko boss, Madam Nanatiwa Adedankwa, speaking to me earlier. And I'm joined on the line now by Edem Senanu. He's co-chair Citizens Movement Against Corruption. Good afternoon to you, sir. Thank you for joining us.
And thank you for having me.
Indeed, yesterday the CDD and the Afful barometer revealed that Ghana maintained its 43rd position on the Corruption Perception Index. At the same time, the police tops again as the most corrupt institution in the country. For you, aside from, let's say, the warfare issues, what do you think is contributing to the police's consistent topping of this CPI list?
Well, I think that of all the public service entities, the police service probably has the largest number of officials who are directly engaging the public on any given day. And so they are right out there in our face. We are engaging with them when we drive, when we stop, when we are walking around the market. And so it is not too surprising that of all the public sector agencies, their personnel are the ones that are seen as most corrupt, especially if the officers themselves are not mindful of the fact that their engagements are in the full public view. So it's not entirely surprising that we have this situation. I think that probably what is the challenge is how much effort are we making to put in place sanction incentives and reward incentives. Sanction incentives meaning very high level punishments, deterrents for people who are found to have done something that goes and breaches the expected ethics of the police service. How high are those sanctions? How deterrent are they? And on the other hand, what are the reward incentives? When policemen and women do the right thing, how are they rewarded so that their behavior is more consistent? I think these are some of the issues.
Mr. Senanu, you seem to be making the argument without considering the welfare issues as well. I know that as far back as when Kwesi Fori used to be the public relations officer for the police service, the national service, there were some improvements in the conditions of service. But really, if you look at their conditions of service, wouldn't you say that that is massively contributing to why they behave the way they do?
I am not one of those who would align with that thinking. I mean, from the time President Mills sought to make a complete change, and then as it were, their salary scales were lifted up, a lot of effort was put into ensuring that they are paid well. I don't think that remuneration for me for the police service is one of the issues that I'll think. There may be other things in terms of tooling, but definitely not in terms of how much they are paid. I think that will be an excuse for anybody to say they are not receiving enough, and so that is why they are doing what they are doing. I think that is not the case.
Let me get your thoughts on the reaction of the Yoko boss as regards the officers' proactiveness or seeming lack of it when it comes to fishing some of these organized crime economic issues.
Unfortunately, the line was quite bad when she was speaking.
So the question to her was, for instance, the SML GRA issue that was exposed by the Fourth Estate, led by Manasseh and his team. The other side of the argument was that Yoko should be the primary institution fishing out some of these corrupt activities. Why did it have to take investigative organization to do that, which is private?
Well, yes. I mean, two aspects of it. One, it clearly points to the fact that there is a need for greater collaboration along the anti-corruption space. And so right at the beginning, perhaps the OSP itself, even though it had taken it up, should have created the opportunities and platforms to discuss the nature of the case and see whether there was a need for collaboration. So yes, ultimately the FBI pointed out to them that this is money laundering, and in our jurisdiction, it was IOCO that ought to take it up. But could that have been done a little bit earlier? Could the OSP have brought them on board? So not necessarily just saying that IOCO by itself should have. At the same time, we know we have the various, and I don't want to call them theft wars, but institutions that tend to want to do things by themselves. So my take would have been that the OSP could also have probably identified this potential earlier and canvass their support. That's on one hand. On the other hand, I think that we need to take public reform of some of these laws that undergird these institutions more seriously. In the case of OSP Act 959, we intentionally put in a clause that they are required at most every 6 months to report to the public. It has generated a lot of good interaction, and clearly they have galvanized the support of citizens much more because they are engaging us much more. I think that the other anti-graft, anti-corruption institutions need to follow suit and consider doing that. And if it needs a change in their laws to compel them, make it an obligatory part of their responsibility to make sure they are coming back, telling us what they are doing, what are the cases, how far have they gone, what have they finished with. I think that will serve the public interest much more than the way things are being done at the moment.
Wondered here. Thank you very much. And that was Adam Senanu. He's co-chair Citizens Movement Against Corruption. We stay on the issue of corruption because the special prosecutor, Kisia Jabin, is asking for the insertion of laws on anti-corruption institutions, particularly the office, his office, into the constitution, as well as enlarge the powers and mandate of anti-corruption institutions, among others, to curb corruption. He was speaking on the 2023 Corruption Perception Index in Accra.
May we set up a specialized anti-corruption court manned by especially trained judges in the field to swiftly and efficiently deal with corruption cases. And then, may we remunerate judges and officers of anti-corruption law enforcement institutions adequately. See, they are human after all. Hunger and squalor beget a natural urge to cut a corner, or two, or three, till it becomes habitual and a culture. Now, Chief of Staff, I do not know how to assure personal integrity in others beyond a plea to good sense, morality, and fairness. Perhaps I know how to do it in respect of my own self. However, I do believe that entrenching a culture of the defense of truth and the reward of integrity in anti-corruption law enforcement institutions and the judiciary along the trajectory of my musings will cascade to the individual officers of these institutions. This is because the deviant will stick out sorely and be easily exposed.
You heard the special prosecutor, Kisia Jabin. Noble Crosby Annan is at the Nat Hall where the Corruption Perception Index is being launched. Let's get some more on this from him. Crosby, what more can you report?
Well, Beatrice, thanks for having me. So just like you mentioned, since 2020, we've not made progress in our fight against corruption. At least that's according to the Corruption Perception Index from the Ghana Integrity Initiative. And that report that has been launched today has in attendance a special prosecutor. There's also the Chief of Staff, Beatrice of Parry, also speaking on the bill. Also expected to speak is Chief Justice of the Republic, also targeted to speak. And the special prosecutor, for instance, he has been disappointed at the country's performance over the years. And what he's saying essentially is that Ghana is only paying lip service to the fight against corruption. We're not putting our money, we're not putting our resources exactly where our mouth is. And that's a frustrating to fight corruption alongside other state institutions mandated to fight corruption. So he's also making a few recommendations, for instance, that putting of the Office of the Special Prosecutor as well as some other institutions mandated to fight corruption into the Constitution. He's also making recommendations or advocating for the increase in the remuneration of judges in the country so that the desire to cut corners will not be entertained. He's also been talking about the involvement of the OSP into the Judicial Council, so there's some disagreement between the authors and the Judicial Service. That was particularly highlighted during the Cecilia Dapa case will not be repeated in the coming year. So these are just a few of the things that the Special Prosecutor Cecilia has been saying for the part of the Chief Justice Cecilia Fenol Parish. She has been, if you like, trumpeting the achievement of government in the fight against corruption going as far back as 2017 when President Akufo-Addo became President of the Republic. And she's been talking about the progress we've made, the laws that the country has passed. For instance, the Right Information Act, there is the mention of the whistleblower, witness protection, just to name but a few, saying that the fight has been growing well so far. But she is also saying that although the fight is going well, corruption is ever evolving, and that state institutions will have to be on their feet, on their toes, as they themselves adequately so that they could go after corruption just like the states wanted to be.
Thank you very much, Crosby Anand there, bringing us updates from the launch of the Corruption Perception Index in Accra. Meanwhile, the Chief Executive Officer of Political and Economic Research Platform, Afful, Dr. Joseph Asunka, has urged the Electoral Commission to demonstrate leadership in stemming the rising trend of vote buying. He says that there has to be a deliberate effort from the EC to tackle the matter.
Money in politics is a norm. But if it becomes like money now driving politics, that's where the challenge lies. In general, I mean, in terms of data, when it comes to like how much exactly do people spend on an election, I don't know if we have good quality data on that. And so when people say elections are expensive, relative to what? And what is the status quo? And so I do think that if it is possible for us to systematically gather data on how much political parties or candidates are investing in their campaigns, that can be very useful. The Electoral Commission is supposed to have this data. That can be, and that's supposed to be public data. So the Electoral Commission should have clear, accurate data on how much candidates and parties are spending. The question is, are those data actually being reported to the Electoral Commission?
And you heard that the Executive Officer of the Political and Economic Research Platform, Afrobarometer, Dr. Joseph Asunka. Now, there's growing concern about the continuous stay in office of public officers who have reached the retiring age of 60. The debate has been reignited after the appearance of the Ghana Revenue Authority's boss, Reverend Dr. Amishadai Owusu-Amoah, before the Public Accounts Committee yesterday. He has admitted that he's been working without contract 2 years after his mandatory 65 years retirement age. And our reporter Duke Mesopoku is monitoring events for us. He joins us live. Duke, what can you report from the PAC proceedings today?
Beatrice, so I can tell you that the issue in relation to the GRA, as a matter of fact, has not come up here. But based on the deliberations that transpired yesterday and what the Public Accounts Committee does with its reports and with its modus operandi, the expectation of many is that the issues that came up yesterday on the floor of the committee would find expression in the reports that the Public Accounts Committee finally presents to the floor of Parliament when Parliament resumes sitting, God willing, exactly a week today, that is next week, February 6th, so that the House will take a decision and whether to refer the matter to the Government Assurance Committee, especially when the Finance Minister made a statement to the effect on the floor of the House that government or the President has directed that contracts should not be given to retiring staff and how Parliament will deal with that. But of course, we've had that assurance from the member who raised that issue on the committee, Member of Parliament for Mingo Pram Sam George, that he will not relent on his hours and that he will push this issue to its logical conclusion.
So what would you...
As regards to what has happened here today, if you had a question?
Go ahead, please.
Yes, I'll say as regards to today, majority of work, in fact, all of the work has centered on the Ghana Health Service and its agency. So the work generally has been in relation to scrutinizing the accounts and the Auditor General's report in relation to the health sector. The first one I would say is the National Blood Service, which used to be the National Blood Bank, for procurement breaches amounting to about 130,000. The chairman of the committee, James Kuchavich, has referred the National Blood Service to the Attorney General for prosecution for varying degrees of procurement infractions. Also, the issue of brain drain and the loss of Ghanaian nurses, particularly to countries such as the United Kingdom, has also come to the fore today. There are a number of nurses who have gone on leave without leave with pay to these countries who do not return. They've taken money, they have signed bonds, but they have not honored these bonds and have not returned to the country. And it's a rising concern that has been raised on the floor of the committee on a number of times. Now, Dr. Patrick Kumar Boaje, who is the Director General of the Ghana Health Service, has also stated at the committee that over 4,000 Ghanaian nurses have left the shores of the country in the last 2 years. 4,000 Ghanaian nurses have left the shores of the country in the last 2 years. But for him, he is not bothered because he believes that there are a lot more nurses in training and the conveyor belt to be moved over to take up these positions. But what he's worried about is the level of experience that the Ghana Health Service and the health service in the country is losing because these nurses are leaving Ghana.
Thank you very much, Duke Mensah Opoku. He's our correspondent monitoring proceedings at the Public Accounts Committee. Thank you for bringing us those details. Now, renewed curfew in Boko as the Upper East Regional Security Council announces a temporary ban on the riding of motorbikes in the Binduri district, with the conflict continuing to spread to other parts of the region. The Boko crisis has lingered for years, resulting in the loss of lives and property due to the inability of governments, past and present, to resolve the matter. Interventions like curfews, stakeholder engagement, and others have all proven futile in solving the matter. I'm joined on the line now by our correspondent Castro Senyala. Castro, if you can hear me, have the security agencies begun the enforcement of this temporary ban on motorbikes already?
Yes, so rightly said. The use of motorbikes in the Binduri district has been temporarily put on ban following this directive. And so, as I speak now, as of yesterday, motorbikes within the Binduri district, were not allowed to be used. This is because the RCC and that of the RESEC believes that it is one of the ways through which these exploitation of the conflict can be brought under control. And so, for that, anyone seen using a motorbike, be it a man, woman, or any other person, would be arrested, as has been directed by the RESEC.
Castro, we also do know that the curfew hours have been reviewed. Obviously, it's not the first. How are these frequent reviews affecting the activities of residents?
Yeah, so residents are really not concerned about the review and or the renewal of the curfew hours within the Boko municipality and now the Binduri district. What they have been calling is for government to tackle the issues as they are, in the sense that they want government to, first of all, work on the insecurity situation there by bringing in more security personnel to ensure that they are everywhere, in fact, in every corner. Their presence is felt in every corner. And also begin the dialoguing process where they would engage the two factions so that, a comfortable solution can be found so that each of the feuding factions would, come to an agreement. Because for them, if government continues, instituting measures and putting curfews and not getting the response, the needed result they want, it was time government began to look at other avenues of resolving the age-long conflict.
Thank you very much, Castro Senyala. He's our man in the Upper East region. I'm joined by security analyst Dr. Adam Buna. Good afternoon to you, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me, Beatrice.
On the issue of Boko, do we seem to be implementing the same strategy or measure and expecting different results based on what you've monitored?
Well, that's if we are even implementing any measure at all. Because it looks like it's total chaos, confusion in Boko. Anytime something happens, we try to either push the gear high, or we reduce the gear, or we leave it to see what happens. We've been using the ad hoc, or call it the temporary measure for some time, using the curfew and sending more men there, and gradually in the night, when the situation seems to have calmed down a bit, the men vanish from Boko, and then we go back to where we are. And so sometimes you ask yourself, do we have a blueprint for Boko? What are we looking at? What is the plan? What is the level of engagement? So as far as I'm concerned, it looks like government seems very confused when it comes to Boko. Government is not able to take bold decisions and bold steps when it comes to Boko. Government is just watching on and trying to play Mr. Good by saying that, you know what, I don't want to go in hard for one faction to say I support here or I support there. So until government takes very bold decisions to tell the people in the face that, you know what, you've got to silence the gun, you've got to stop killing one another whilst we continue with dialogue. But as we speak, is there any dialogue at all? No. We are just sending men. You can check with any war historian. He will tell you that sending security forces to a conflict area has never brought about peace. Never brought about peace. You need to use a multifaceted approach in security. But unfortunately, the only approach is a very confused security approach, which is not helping.
Doc, you understand that dealing with conflict issues are very sensitive, especially chieftaincy ones where people really have entrenched positions. And these ideas that you're bringing on board, it's not like the government has not been announcing that there's a need for people to put down their guns. But I just want to find out from you, when you talk about having dialogues with the people, what level of engagement or conversations do we need to have at this stage?
You see, we started something in 2022. The government, together with some of us, and I've said it repeatedly on your network or networks, that we're there in 2022 to have a first, government-led, high-powered, dialogue, where we went first to the Bokunabes Palace, met the youth of the Kusasi area, went to the regent who was coming from the Mamprosis, met the regent and his elders, then met the youth of Mamprosis. When we were done, from both sides, they promised us that if this level of engagement and dialogue continues, we won't see any form of violence in Baku, pending when amicable solution will be brought to this conflict in Baku. They gave us 3 months that we won't see any bloodshed, won't see people dying. And I tell you, for 3 months, there was no gunshot in Baku. You can check. There was no gunshot. We also promised them the government, the delegation led by the government team, including the Interior Minister, Defense Minister, the IGP, the CDS, and all the security capos in this country. They promised that we will be coming back in 3 months. It's been how many years? No one has gone back there.
So for you, we've abandoned the roadmap that would have worked for us.
Exactly. Oh. So there is no way you are going to, if you started something that was working, why didn't the government go back to that arena? When I checked, I was told that no budgetary provision, no allocation of funds have been made for the dialogue to continue.
We'll have to end it here. Thank you so much, Dr. Adam Bona, for sharing your views with us. And that's how we end the news here on 3FM. Our top story brought you that exclusive conversation with the boss of Yoko, confirming that indeed the office has received the referral of the case of Cecilia Dapper. My name is Beatrice. Thank you so much for joining us. You can log on to 3fm.com for more news. Good afternoon.
Accra gets busy on this frequency. 92.7 3FM. Accra gets busy on this frequency. 92.7 3 FM.
Hello, good afternoon. It's time now for Business Daily on 3FM 92.7. In our headlines this afternoon, Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry hints at rising non-performing loans following marginal reduction in policy rates.
They may not be able to invest in businesses that would generate that higher revenue for them to pay for the loans. So non-performing loans will definitely remain high.
Also, Bank of Ghana renews commitments to seek interventions to address outstanding challenges with domestic debt exchange program.
The Bank of Ghana held several engagements with ICAG to discuss matters relating to the accounting treatment and implications of the DDEP.
Plus, poor corporate governance is to blame for struggles of once cocoa buying market leader, PVC Limited. We will bring you the details, and my name is Manu Afful. We'll bring you details of these stories and more. Stay with me. Thank you for your time. We'll start off with the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry as it's warning banks may record even higher non-performing loans this year. This chief executive of the chamber, Mark Bedu-Abuaje, has attributed to the Monetary Policy Committee's resolve to reduce the policy rate by a percentage point to 29%. Speaking to 3 Business, he said the decline is significant. The decline is insignificant, hence would affect ability of borrowers and businesses to pay back loans.
The impact of policy rates on businesses is its impact on lending rates and also reduction in the cost of borrowing for businesses. If the policy rate is just reduced by 1% and lending rates are remaining the same, or there is just a marginal reduction in the lending rate, then of course nothing has really changed. I don't expect that the average lending rate will fall below 34%, which means that the cost of borrowing is still high for businesses. So businesses who would want to borrow and were expecting actually a lower lending rate will not have that. So some will stay back and wait and see what will happen in the next Monetary Policy Committee meeting. Others who may have a project that they will want to borrow, some may borrow at that higher cost, but the negative impact of it is that they may not be able to invest in businesses that would generate that higher revenue for them to pay for the loans. So non-performing loans will definitely remain high.
That was Mark Bedu-Abuaje, Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Away from that, despite an increase in non-performing loans in 2023, data from the Bank of Ghana shows that banks were profitable. According to the report, non-performing loans increased from 16% in 2022 to over 20% last year. While they incurred a 34% loss in 2022, they posted about a 34% profit in 2023. Speaking to 3 Business, banking consultant Patrick Abankwaba provided more perspectives that accounted for this development.
So one of the options that banks usually consider when it comes to making some good profit over a period of time has to do with off-balance sheet transactions. So here we are talking of guarantees that banks can do for their customers, letters of credit that they can raise for their customers. All of these off-balance sheet transactions come with fees that these banks charge. So for example, if a customer wants to buy items from, let's say, China or Turkey, and want to take a loan from the bank, the customer can go into an agreement with the supplier to agree on some payment terms in terms of letters of credit. Now, when the payment term is agreed with the supplier, it goes on the customer to get a bank to ratify or give a facility by way of a guarantee for that agreement. And once the bank gives that, the bank charges fees for that. And the more banks get these transactions to run, they get more profit by way of the fees that they charge, which sits on the main asset of the bank, which in this case we talk of the loan. So that's one area they can find. Post-debt exchange, most of these banks are also sometimes considering investing in government treasury bills, which at the moment the rate is above 26%. Depending on the regime you want to go, it can even go as high as 31%.
Banking consultant Patrick Abankwaba there. And the Bank of Ghana has renewed commitments to engage the Institute of Chartered Accountants Ghana to address any challenges arising out of the domestic debt exchange program. According to the central bank, engaging key stakeholders will help governments make judicious use of the funding secured from the IMF. Director of Supervision at the Bank of Ghana, Osei Jesse, was speaking at an event organized by the Institute of Chartered Accountants Ghana in Accra.
On January 19 this year, Ghana secured a second tranche of the IMF Extended Credit Facility. The World Bank granted $600 million out of the $3 billion. The World Bank granted $600 million out of the $3 billion that Ghana requested. In all that, key stakeholders, including the Institute of Chartered Accountants Ghana, ICAG, have contributed to the policy formulation in securing the support. Director of Supervision at the Bank of Ghana, Osei Jesse, has lauded the contribution of the ICAG.
Right at the onset, the Bank of Ghana held several engagements with ICAG to discuss matters relating to the accounting treatment and implications of the DDEP and its associated impact on the financial statements of banks and specialized deposit-taking institutions.
To further improve an accountancy profession, the ICAG has reviewed its curriculum to meet modern trends. The curriculum is expected to make chartered accountants competitive on the job market. President of ICAG, Senna Dake, underscored the relevance of the new curriculum.
Should not be at just the top. It should go deep down to all aspects of our economy, all industries, and all sectors. From one sector to the other must appreciate the content of our syllabus.
Other speakers were of the view the curriculum will reach the profession of charlatans.
Director of Supervision at the Bank of Ghana, Osei Jesse, was speaking at the event organized by the Institute of Chartered Accountants Ghana here in Accra. Well, despite the introduction of upgraded security features on the 50 cedi notes some years ago, concerns over counterfeit currency linger as some old notes remain in circulation. The Bank of Ghana moves to allay fears, affirming the continued legality of the older bills and urging acceptance by the public. Dr. Ernest Addison is governor of the central bank.
The issue of the upgraded CD notes. Remember, this was done sometime in 2014 or 2015. They had issues with the 50 Ghana CD, and therefore they introduced what they call the upgraded 50 Ghana CDs. So you have the upgraded ones with the cocoa pod, I think, prominently showing, and then the older ones are also in circulation. So there are not many of those older ones left, but they are still legal tender. So there's not an issue with counterfeiting. From the data that we have seen, maybe one or two counterfeit notes in 2023 compared to previous times when you could get nearly 30. But the counterfeiting issue is not a major problem.
That was the governor of the central bank, Dr. Ernest Addison, there. Before we go, let's look at some of our headlines today. Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry hints at rising non-performing loans following marginal reduction in policy rates. Also, the central bank renews commitment to seek interventions to address outstanding challenges with domestic debt exchange program. Plus, poor corporate governance to blame for struggles of once cocoa buying market leader, PBC Limited. My name is Manu, Afful. And this is how we bring the business news to an end. Do stay tuned. Black Rasta will soon join for Urban Blend.